team of DJs, producers, operation managers, fundraisers, the board of directors, and of course its wonderful and committed volunteers has kept Kuvo as one of the world's favorite radio stations. And it's an on-air community center for the thousands of Denver music fans, musicians, and music students. I'll never forget the moment I heard of the tragic news of trumpeter Ron Miles passing. The first thing I did was turn on to Kuvo, like so many other friends, musicians, and fans, because we knew that they would be playing his music and talking about Ron, and it was a way for the community to grieve with Kuvo. It was the same when Ellyn Rucker passed, when Neil Bridge passed, and of course our beloved Freddie Rodriguez passed. You could be sure that KUVO was there for us. And I also remember when we all felt somewhat imprisoned during COVID, but we could always rely on COVID and the comforting, recognizable voices, a warm jazz blanket during uncertain times. And I was just talking to Steve about all of the improvisation they had to do to make Kuvo work during those times. The tape shows that they had to do to make sure that the music was still on the air. Now, Carlos Lando's radio career began 57 years ago in the vibrant, the diverse, the welcoming, the beautiful, the idyllic, the rhythmical music island of Puerto Rico. There's a certain Canadian who didn't get the memo. His first job at a radio station was in junior high at Ramey Air Force Base in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. And following high school, his career quickly took off and he was soon working in radio between New York City and then back to Puerto Rico. He was soon interviewing all kinds of musical legends like Dizzy Gillespie, Nina Simone, and hundreds of others. And he shared a story about the end of one memorable interview with Count Basie. He said, he shook my hand, he smiled with that cigar, and he goes, "Son, you just need to keep doing what you're doing. We need people like you to not only remember, but to move the music forward." Count Basie, I think he took your advice. In 1980, he became the music and program director at the 5 Points on 1510 KDKO. Now, Dr. Daddio, fun times. And then he eventually became president and general manager of KUVO. And throughout his time at Kuvo, Carlos has instilled a culture of excellence. And I know we can sometimes take for granted this wonderful institution, but as a former board member, I can tell you I've seen how the sausage is made. That delicious musical meal that comes over the 89.3 takes a lot of work, blood, sweat, and tears. And Kuvo has seen a journey of highs and lows, struggles and successes. And one of the biggest highs was when Carlos, working with Amanda Mountain, merged Kuvo with Rocky Mountain PBS, ultimately building its new state-of-the-art studios with amazing performance spaces. But the undisputed fact is that Carlos has always made sure that the music was the anchor. It's one of the main reasons dusty old Cowtown Denver is also the jazz capital of the West. It's one of the main reasons that Denver is not seen as a stop-off for jazz musicians, it's a destination. And if you're like me, I've had hundreds of driveway moments when you're driving home and you just can't get out of the car until that song or that interview ends. And of course, we have all of our wonderful DJs, Mid-Morning Jazz with Tree King, Arturo Lunchtime, Gomez, Midday Jazz with Kim Berry, Evening Jazz with Paul Donovan, The Night Beat with Andy O, Canción Mexicana, The Gospel Train with Deborah Walker, Brazilian Fantasy with Sinir, and many, many more. Carlos, Flo, and all of Kuvo, I also want to speak to you as a musician. Being a jazz musician is not easy. One of my teachers said one time, yeah, become a jazz musician. You can make hundreds of dollars a year. But Kuvo, having our backs, it's a confirmation, it's an affirmation, it's an inspiration. Your promotion of our gigs on the air, Kuvo staff showing up at our performances, your willingness to have us perform live on the air in the Kuvo studios, your support of the 5 Points Jazz Festivals, and on a personal note, I'm the son of two music teachers. My mother, Julie, was one of the founders of the National Association of Jazz Educators. Your support of young student jazz musicians, their teachers, and jazz education is beyond admirable. It is keeping this incredible American art form alive and thriving. And that's why we also have the Carlos Landau Colorado Music Educator Award as well. So on behalf of the Colorado Music Hall of Fame, on behalf of jazz musicians and fans of music everywhere, I'm honored to congratulate and induct KUVO Florence Hernandez Ramos and Carlos Lando into the Colorado Music Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, the Colorado Music Hall of Fame, for this great honor. 39 years ago, when we signed on in 1985, KUVO never dreamed that this kind of honor would come our way. So thank you very much. And thank you for bringing us to the 5 Points area, because as you know, this area was KUVO's home for many, many years, and they allowed us to become part of the musical legacy of this community. I want to thank everyone here for supporting KUVO, because you all have played a very integral role in the formation of jazz and of KUVO and of all of the music forms that you can find on KUVO. But I want to thank 3 groups in particular. First of all, the founding members. The foundation of KUVO includes the organizing committee, my family, and right now my husband continues to support me, but also Veronica Gallegos, who was our first engineer, so to speak. And despite the fact that she had only egg cartons as lining for acoustic materials in the studio, and despite the fact that that first broadcast studio was a tiny, tiny little place that got very hot, she made everybody feel comfortable. And I also want to thank Mercedes Hernandez, my sister, who was on a volunteer basis also the first program director for KUVO. She built, and they're both here tonight, and together, she and Veronica and a bunch of other people built a station that is worthy of your honor that you have bestowed upon us. She built a very strong foundation for Carlos. She learned how to play music on schedule. She trained all of the volunteers that came to be the on-air DJs, because we had no paid staff. So thank you very much. I also want to thank those people that built on that strong foundation and continue to work with KUVO and continue to try to make it the best that it can ever be, and they're certainly accomplishing that. We have Carlos and Tina, Arturo, Arvida, Andy, Steve, Joey, and Tree, all of the OGs of KUVO. And the last group that I want to thank are the people that are taking KUVO into the future. And those people include Amanda Mountain from the Rocky Mountain Public Media, the merged boards that are leading us in making sure that KUVO continues to focus in on culture, community, and music, Ayana and Shane, and of course, all of the young Turks that are now working at KUVO. But then there's people like Matt Herzberger, who's looking way into the future, and he has made KUVO the sole recipient of his will, and is urging each of you to look at that too. And of course, throughout 39 years of existence, there's always been, and we have always relied upon, the kindness of strangers, the listeners, the members, the volunteers, the staff, and the underwriters. And all of these people have made it possible for us to be here today. Thank you very much.
I think we got the history just about covered. Actually, I lost it now. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Andrew, thank you so much, man, for your eloquent words. And Flo, thank you for hiring me. Appreciate it. You know, and thank you for the kind words about Puerto Rico. Now I don't have to remind you. What a beautiful island I come from. You know, my love affair with radio/music started a long, long time ago. With radio in particular, I don't know what it was, but when I would hear my father playing this big Grundig stereo system on the weekends, playing records and then putting the radio on, and you know, the old shortwave radios and all these things to pick up these stations, Luxembourg and all this stuff. When my father was in the Air Force, and so I lived in Spain for 4 years. I lived in England for 3 years, which is where I actually learned how to speak English. And so I had this already ingrained in me, and I wanted to play music. I took music lessons, stuff like that. So I knew that the roots were there. I just wasn't sure the path that I was going to follow. So by 1965, when the family moved back to Puerto Rico, and I was just, I think, first or second year in high school, my father was gone. He was doing his first tour of Nam, and I got my first job over the Christmas holidays and went out, and I was bussing tables at the NCO club for almost 3 weeks, and I got my check. I made 50 cents an hour, and the check came to about 39 bucks. So I went down to Sears Roebuck and Company and bought a Silvertone radio for $36 and change, and put it in my room next to my bed. My brother didn't appreciate it too much at the time, because I had that thing on, but that really began my love affair of hearing great broadcasters, great programming, that connection to the community primarily through music and the history of music. And so I just kind of took that with me. And then when I got in high school a couple of years later, I already knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be on the air. So when they asked me if I wanted to go to a hangout at the radio station and intern, and this was the Armed Forces Caribbean Network in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, which was part of, at the time, Ramey Air Force Base. In my junior year in high school, I would go there 2 days a week for 2 hours and organize a music library. And for that, I got credit. I didn't have to sit in biology class or something. I could do that, and I got an A in it, so it was easy. So I did that, and a few months later, they said, "Hey, do you want to learn, to be a broadcaster on the air?" I said, "Yeah, I want to do it." So back in those days, this is late 60s, 67, 68, we had some great broadcasters in the service. Many of them had joined. It wasn't as crazy as Good Morning Vietnam, but it was very similar. Everybody there was in the service, and they just kind of took me under the wing, and and there was, every hour on the air was different. You had a big band show, you had a country western show, you had a soul show, and so this appreciation for music across the board grew even deeper. So I learned all the things I had to learn, and then they turned me loose midnight to 6 on the weekends while I was still in high school. And I had a blast. At first I was like frozen, because I had to not only read the news at the top of the hour, the teletype machine, and all these names. It was all the Vietnam War was raging, and so I had to learn how to pronounce certain Vietnamese names. I learned pretty quickly how to do it. But then as soon as the news was over, I had to get the music going, and all the songs were like 3 or 4 minutes long, and they all got approved by the Department of Defense. at least until 3 in the morning. And after that, I'd cut loose with Inagata and Jumping Jack Flash by the Stones, Hendrix, you know, things that were not approved, but I knew the only people listening at that point were my classmates at, you know, on a Saturday night. So that's kind of my beginnings of radio. Graduated and went down to the local community radio station and got a job. But I was so tired of being on the island after all these years, and I wanted to spread my wings. So I quit and I left and probably drove across the country to experience America as an adult for the first time, and hung out in San Francisco and LA and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I decided, well, if I'm gonna stick around this business, I better learn about the business of radio. You know, I had a lot of fun on the air, but I got tired of somebody walking in and saying, you know, we're changing the format. We don't need you anymore. So I said, okay, so we'll leave that alone. So at some point in my life, I think I was late 20s or something, just before I came to Denver, I said, I have to learn about what makes radio work, and there's a formula here, there's a method to the madness. So I buckled down and learned why it's important to sell commercials. What's the best way to communicate with your audience, and all these things. And so it opened up other doors for me in other jobs. And so I was able to move up from there. And that's when the KDKO job opened up in 1980. And that was my real introduction to 5 Points. And I was so honored to have met the old guard of 5 Points that were still around. Leroy Smith, Charlie Cousins, all these people just kind of took me under their wing back in those days, the R&B days, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. And when I moved on from there, I knew about Kuvo. I had heard that they were starting up a new station. I was parked over at KBCO at the time in Boulder. And in fact, that's where I first met Steve Chavis, was at KBCO. He was a newsman over there. And I'd been there almost a year. And one day Steve came up to me, and back then, I don't think we had computers. He said, hey Carlos, look at this. And he showed me the Colorado Broadcast Association little job newsletter. He goes, they're looking for a PD at Kubo. And I looked at him and I said, that's my job. I said, that's my job. You know, and so I looked at it and I immediately went and saw Flo. And Flo was very eloquent. She told me, she knew who I was, but she played it off real cool. And she said to me, she goes, yeah, well, I'm not so sure, but why don't you go home and talk to your wife about it and come see me on Monday? That's exactly what she said. And so I came back on Monday and she offered me the job, and that was 37 and a half years ago. And so I've spent half my life with Kubo and over half my life in this fantastic community. I just want to say one other thing. I would like to thank my lovely wife and partner in this amazing journey of Kubo, because without her, Kubo would not have made it either. And I'm speaking of our most valuable player during all these years, the lady who raised the money, who oversaw the volunteers, who was really the always a smile, always that energy, Tina Cartagena. Would you stand up, Tina? Where's she at? Come on up. So now it's time for the plaques, because I talked long enough.
Christine, you want to say anything? Say a word. Come on. She didn't want to talk.
I told him no. But thank you, Andrew, for mentioning that next year is our 40th year of celebrating Kubo. And we're thinking about 40 together because we did it because of you guys. Thank you so much.
One more thing, I do want to thank Amanda Mountain from RMPM for her support, embracing Kubo, helping us, providing the resources that has allowed KUVO, specifically in the last 7 or 8 years, to go to a whole nother level that we would have never been able to do without the support of Amanda and RMPM and the incredible staff that we have. Thank you so much. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank small core board members that were there in that transition period that made sure that that everything was going to be on the up and up. Happy Haynes, who's here. Happy, we love you. David Zucker, Chad Hollingsworth, Susan Greenberg, David Leonard, and of course, my man Andrew here. So if I forgot anybody, thank you. Kubo is in good hands, by the way, with new leadership in place, and so we'll be doing some good things. I got one last little surprise. Is it there? One little surprise before we get into Chapultepec. Many of you remember our broadcast from the early 90s. Some of you do anyway. We used to broadcast every Thursday night from the PEC, and this relationship that we established with Jerry and the PEC and his family. And I've got a few seconds of this, and I want to remind people what it was like 30 more years ago. Let's play that.
All right, we're going to turn it back over to the stage and turn it over to Freddie Rodriguez and his band as they're getting ready to kick off the third set of the evening. And our second set, it is 2 minutes after 11 o'clock. This is KUVO Denver, your oasis in the city. So we go back up to Freddie Rodriguez and the Jazz Connection. You know, I got David. I think Jerry must get that mirror back there polished every week.
Oh, but there's no way to go.
That's the one thing that always does look new and sparkling in here.
Makes the stage look bigger.
Is the big PEC mirror. That one never gathers.
That's right. He does.
And he does. So come on out. We'll be here until late. Our broadcast will continue for at least another hour. We're at Chapultepec at 20th and Market. There's plenty of parking around here. Just hope to see you out here. All right, let's take it back up to the stage and Freddie Rodriguez.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our second set. As usual, we're going to start off with the house group here at the Chapultepec, and we're broadcasting on station KUVO, and our good friend Carlos Lando at the controls. And in just a few minutes, we'll be bringing up our special guest, Javon Jackson. We're going to do a number entitled Crazy Rhythm.
Another hand for Kubo. Flo.
Our next presenter is a multi-instrumentalist. Before choosing voice as her main instrument, she's been in Colorado since the late 80s and has sung all over the place. She's got recordings, she's toured internationally and locally as a featured soloist with the Greeley Symphony. And for the first part of the 21st century, she hosted her own show on KUVO. That station keeps showing up all over the place. I don't know what it is. Hey, I would like you all to give a warm welcome to the one and only Miss Wendy Fopiano.
Good evening, and thank you for coming. Ellyn Rucker was a beautiful human being, a superb musician whose gorgeous playing and singing touched and influenced countless musicians and brought immense joy to her fans. Originally from Des Moines, she was introduced to jazz at age 13 by her brother Ross, a very fine bassist. Ellyn said, and I quote, "I really don't know what would have happened if he hadn't been around. I loved the sound of jazz, and the fact that he played it and brought musicians home to play it with him was a kick. And he's the first one who encouraged me to improvise. I'd never even heard the word." Ellyn enrolled as a classical piano major at Drake University, and she met her husband there, bassist Dave Rucker. They moved to Colorado in 1957, and for the next 2 decades, she occasionally gigged in clubs around Denver, but her main focus was on raising her children, Kurt and Kristen. The couple divorced, and she needed a way to support herself, so she began pursuing a full-time music career in 1979 when her kids were young adults, and she was in her 40s. Despite the obstacles of being a female in a male-dominated music scene, Ellyn achieved so much over the course of her career. She made wonderful records with excellent musicians. She played at clubs, festivals, and venues locally and abroad. She was a guest on Marion McPartland's Piano Jazz. She played the North Sea Jazz Festival in Holland 3 years in a row. She really went on to become an icon. So many musicians in this town were mentored by her, and they all talk about what an excellent musician she was and how sweet she was, and she was so nice about letting people sit in on her gigs. Drew Burrell, a local bassist, he's a multi-instrumentalist actually, who was playing bass at the time, has this story to share about Ellyn, and I quote, "Ellyn was an amazing musician and one of the most unique people I've ever known. She was so wonderful to be around. She always said what she meant, unfettered and unapologetically, and still made me feel like a friend, and that she truly cared about everyone around her. Her musicianship was astounding. Once on this duo gig, she had us play a blues at 70 beats a minute. Oh my God. Don't play any triplets or any embellishments, just quarter notes, she said. And don't let the tempo budge, not one bit. The tune was 6 or 7 minutes long, and I was sweating at the end of it. She turned to me and said, 'That's a big boy tempo.'" End quote. Ellyn used to call me to sub for her on her gig with Laura Newman, Jill Fredrickson, and Vlad Grishevich, and she ended up just giving me that gig. I owe so much to Ellyn. That's been a fantastic gig for me, playing with these phenomenal musicians. And they all love Ellyn dearly and miss her very, very much. What Ellyn Rucker has given to our community and beyond is invaluable. She is deeply loved and missed, and I'm really happy she's being celebrated tonight. Thank you.
I'm nervous. I'm really nervous. But I first want to thank everyone for coming out this evening to support the Colorado Music Hall of Fame and the Mile High Jazz Oasis Induction Concert. Thank you all. I also want to thank the Colorado Music Hall of Fame for this wonderful award for my mom. I so wish Mom was here and alive to celebrate this award, but I know that she's here in spirit and she's beaming down on all of us with her gorgeous smile and her warm heart. I also want to congratulate all of the very well deserved and extremely talented other inductees. Mom had countless gigs with Greg and Eric and of course Kenny and they're also on several of Mom's CDs. Congratulations to you all. Also sending a huge shout out to Kuvo. They have supported my mother throughout her entire career, and they continue to play her music to this day, and they keep her memory and her melodies alive, and thank you. That truly means the world to me. And then, of course, you know, huge thank you to Jerry Krantz, the Krantz family, and El Chapultepec. Jerry never failed to employ my mother during financial downtimes. He kept my mother and Joni Janik on a continuous happy hour gig for over 15 years. He always paid cash, which is another huge bonus, right? So thank you. As you all know, Jerry and the Pack are iconic for keeping their doors open 7 nights a week for jazz fans and musicians from around the world. It was a world-renowned location and truly iconic. So thanks, Jerry. What can I say? Mom was a very talented player, piano player and singer. She could play the most gorgeous ballads, melodies, chord changes that could bring on a serious case of goosebumps and absolutely bring you to tears. She could also be extremely funny and witty, and I love hearing the stories about her standing at the mic at the Peck and having a direct sight line into the men's restroom when the door was open. Those were fun stories. I also just got a kick out of the fact that, you know, Jerry Seinfeld wandered into the Peck one night, and he was very, very friendly with Mom, and eventually Mom had to tell him to get lost. She had no clue who he was until Jerry Krantz told her that was Jerry Seinfeld. But, you know, anyway. And then there was also the time that she got hired to work at the Diamond Cabaret, and the piano was up on the catwalk. And my mother, at the golden age of 75, had to climb up a ladder to get to the piano on the catwalk, and then the girls had to climb over my mom to get to their positions at 75. I have countless stories. I wish I would write. I wish I would have soaked them all in while Mom was alive, because she was hysterically funny that way. And the stories, they were endless. But anyway, she was also a very, very sensitive soul. I believe that her sensitivity, combined with her talent, is what gave us that beautiful, lyrical, endearing music that she produced. This sensitivity made her career choice oftentimes very difficult. It was often hard for her to be under scrutiny with public opinions, various opinions and criticism. That tended to be very hard on Mom. Over the years, she was called a sultry singer, She did not like that phrase at all. She did not want to be known as a sexy, sultry singer. She also didn't want to be known as a flashy player. She wanted people to understand the nuances of her melodies. And I feel like she thinks she was often very misunderstood, or the nuances of her music were very misunderstood. She wanted to be known for her lush harmonies, her lyric and melodic playing and singing. But in spite of these challenges, Mom always stayed true to her music and to her craft. Always at the core were Mom's beautiful, generous heart and loving humility, which is part of what made her music so magical. And regardless of what was going on in the world around my mother, she remained a truly compassionate, warm, and loving person. And this is what comes out in every note she played and sang. My mother, she loved people fiercely. My brother and I, my nephew, my sister from another mother, my cousin, everyone felt like they knew that they were loved fiercely by my mother. And without a doubt, you know, it was unconditional love. And that we were always her priority. She didn't actually start off her career until her 40s. She needed to make sure that my brother and I were fine as adults and that we were going to be fine, and then she could start her career. She always championed the most vulnerable person in the room and always made them feel welcome. After gigs, she would make tip money. It would be her, like, the last dollar she made on earth, and she'd stop and give them to a homeless person, or her couch, or her blanket, and it's 2 in the morning and it's below zero. That's the kind of person she was. In the words of Jeff Jenkins, at Mom's funeral, another great pianist, by the way, he said, "I've never heard anyone say anything bad about Ellyn, ever." And that to me is quite the legacy. You don't often hear that about really anybody. My mother was a strong, independent woman who forged her career in a predominantly male culture. I will forever miss these things about my mother and these lessons that she taught. So basically, in closing, I do want to thank again the Colorado Music Hall of Fame for this great honor for my mom. And once again, congratulate all of the inductees. And then I would also like to give a shout out to my employer, Plant Moran. They sponsored a table tonight, and that was really thrilling. And they're also the CPA firm of Kubo, so. Jen Bannicky, B. Casillas, Melanie Carlson, and her niece. I got your name. Anyway, lastly, Mom, wherever you are, I want you to know how proud I am of you. And I am so thrilled for you for this award. And I am so thrilled to be accepting it on your behalf. One of Mom's all-time very favorite quotes, which is so appropriate for this occasion, and the legacy of her music, is by Irving Berlin. And he says, the song is over, but the melody lingers on. Thank you.
Woo, woo, woo.
One more induction before we get to a little music from Ken Walker and the crew, all right? How about that? A hand for the one and only Ellyn Rucker.
Woo, woo, woo.
A member of the sextet here that's about to perform has lived and played in New York, played with jazz masters and jazz legends. Here in Colorado, why does he live in Colorado? We know why. He's a music educator and he's a mentor as well. He's part of why the Colorado music scene flourishes. We want to introduce you to the guitarist with the Ken Walker Sextet, Dave Corliss.
Woo!
Well, I might keep this a little bit short because I'm standing in the way between the Ken Walker Sextet performing, but where to start? How about Little Rock?
early 60s, that's where Ken came up. And, you know, that was a tough place in the early 60s. Ken said when he went to school in the beginning, all black school, they didn't have any bathrooms, they had to go out to the outhouse. And so it was like, wow. You know, and that was not too many years after, you know, Governor Phobos, Mingus wrote Fables of Phobos based on that. So Ken converted to Catholicism real quick and went to the Catholic school. And that was the first desegregated school in that county. And I didn't know this about Ken, but I can hear it in his playing. He studied cello. I think he had a nice musical mentor at that age. It was really important. He studied cello in 4th and 5th grade. And then flip ahead to 8th grade, and then he picked up the tuba, and he really was drawn to the tuba. And so he played tuba and marching band throughout high school, and then he went to Arkansas Tech, and you know, he was still playing the tuba. He was the #1 tuba player in state for Arkansas. So I can hear the cello in Kenny's playing, and I can hear the tuba. But then he discovered the bass and jazz, and he was playing 4 or 5 nights a week in Little Rock. And then Benny Golson came to town and said, "Kenny, come to New York." And so Kenny came to New York, and he tells the story of playing in Benny Golson's band in New York, and Benny's bass player, in a New York fashion, would come sit in the front row and just stare at him the whole set he was playing, because he didn't want him to take his job. Kenny, always unfazed. And Eddie Harris told a story about that at the Peck once. And Eddie just started staring at Kenny when he was playing, and wouldn't stop staring at him, and Kenny just stared right back at Eddie. And then he asked Eddie, "What did you do that for the whole set?" He goes, "I just wanted to see what you were going to do." You know, Kenny didn't get fazed. So then Kenny came to, Kenny, big guy, maybe he's too big for New York, maybe New York too big for Kenny, but we're lucky. He came to Denver in '85. There might have been a lady involved, but he got here somehow. And that's when the Peck tenure started. Kenny played 6-7 nights, and then 6 nights over a 12-year period at Chapultepec with everybody. You know, Houston Persip, I remember he played with Joe Pass one weekend. Everybody came to the Peck. Kenny was the house band. That was marvelous, and he was really played with everyone during that time. It was a great moment, and he was part of that Chapultepec history. He was the fundamental ohm of the universe. You know, that Kenny bass you can always hear. And he started the Ken Walker Sextet all the way back then, and he released that album Terra Firma off the tune he wrote. It was top 10 in the charts for 17 weeks. It's great. You don't have Terra Firma. It's a great album to have. And by the way, we just recorded another album last year, and it's called Man of Action. It's coming out of Capri, so if you want to pre-order that, come and see me. That's coming out. Little pitch there for the new Ken Walker Sextet CD. Let's hear it for Kenny. Yeah. Come see me. We got him. We'll get him. I met Kenny around that time in the middle of the Peck. We did 16 years at the Wash Park Grill every Sunday night. They even put our picture on the menu right next to the top sirloin steaks. And we're honored. And Kenny and I went with Bob Montgomery twice to Australia on some tours there, and Bob went to Italy. What else? Kenny was inducted to the Arkansas Hall of Fame, and just really played with everybody. Pharoah Sanders was a particular person that took pride in bringing Kenny, because they both were from Little Rock, so he played with Pharoah a number of times, including going to San Francisco and playing there. The Sextet played a lot of different places. My favorite moments with the Sextet were at the Telluride Jazz Celebration. 3 or 4 times we played there. And that's all. I could go on and on with Kenny and all the people that he played with at the Peck. I can't remember so many of them. There's like almost everybody that I can think of. And everybody has stories about the Peck, so maybe we can chat that up in between the insets. But I want to give a shout out to Barbara Ernst, who keeps him out of trouble too, his wife of many years. And just a lot of heart to see Kenny inducted. It's such an honor to just give a short, brief history of those special moments. So thank you.
Woo!
So let's bring up Ken Walker. Kenny Walker, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo, woo, woo.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out here. I'm not really a talker, you know, I play bass, and just normally back in the back doing our job. So, but I really appreciate this honor, and well, you know, I would never have expected that to happen, this to happen, but, you know, because I just love playing music, and for me, that's all I needed, you know. And I continue to be able to play music, and I certainly enjoy it. And you know, I met my wife out here, and she's always been. She's a musician herself. She sings guitar. So, and how we met and got married, she came up to me and said, "I want to marry you." It was like, so we got married. But other than that, you know, for me, playing bass is really, it really helps me stay balanced and happy, because I love playing music, and all the great musicians I've gotten to play with. It's just, you know, wonderful. But the Eddie Harris thing that was especially wonderful, because you know, because I was listening to his records, and I never thought I'd get a chance to play with him. And you know, Benny Golson, I got to play with. I got to play, you know, I took lessons from Ron Carter and all these great musicians that I listened to on record. And so for me, jazz has really kept me sane and kept me happy, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Woo, woo, woo. Yeah.
Ken Walker. All right, don't go again. The band is coming up. They're going to do a quick set. Going to do a couple. Just make us hungry for more. And we've got some more inductions in a moment. But part of the reason we're here is to hear the great music that these guys do. They still play, I think, the fourth Friday at Dazzle. Last Friday. They've been doing that for a while, so you can always catch them there. All right, then, let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ken Walker Sextet.
Woo, woo, woo.
Thanks for your patience. We're just regrouping a little bit. We're gonna make sure everything stays here on schedule. We're gonna open with a tune by the great Wayne Shorter. This is titled Black Eyes. Black Eyes. Thank you so much. I know it's in your program, but I always do this at Dazzle, so please keep your hands together for Mr. Dave Corbis on the guitar. Dave Corbis on the guitar. Dave Hansen at the piano. Dave Hansen at the piano. Mr. Greg Gisbert at the trumpet. Greg Gisbert at the trumpet. Paul Romaine at the drums.
Yeah.
Paul Romaine at the drums. My name is Peter Summer on the tenor saxophone. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. They make me announce. Thank you very much. And Mr. Ken Walker on the bass. Ken Walker on the bass. Yeah, we've been playing together as a band since 1999. We played at Jazz Aspen Snowmass in 1999 as a quintet with the great Al Hood, who's in Kentucky now, and best wishes to Al. He had just moved to Colorado at that time. And then we added Jeff Jenkins, who's normally with us on piano. He's in Omaha now. And that's when it was a sextet instead of a quintet. And yeah, I remember that gig very well. I owe so much to this band and so much to Kenny, so thank you so much, Kenny, for everything. I can never thank you enough, man. And we still play at Dazzle last Friday of every month. We've done that for more than 20 years at all the locations, and we love playing there, so come check us out next time you're out by the DCPA. We're gonna invite a really great friend up now who's also getting inducted tonight to play on a tune with us. If Eric Gunnison wouldn't mind joining us on stage. Eric? Yeah? Dave wants to make sure I remind you that last tune is on our new CD, along with this next tune is on our new CD as well. And we're gonna play a tune that we associate with the great Houston person. And this is titled, Why Not? Why Not? Mr. Eric Gunnison on the piano.
Yeah! Ow, ow, ow!
I think we're going to continue now with some more inductees.
So this is where the band takes a break and we do a couple more inductions. And then the band comes back, all right? How about that?
Yeah! Woo!
Don't go far, fellas. We have more work for you to do. And we're looking forward to it. Hey, before we get to these next couple of inductions, I want to welcome to the stage one of the founders and the co-chair of the board of the Colorado Music Hall of Fame, Scott Tobias.
Hey everybody, thanks for being here. Let's give it up to all the inductees, Ken Walker, Carlos, the team. Amazing. I'm humbled to be up here tonight. I'm going to be pretty brief, a few words, a few thank yous. One big thank you, she's behind the curtain here, our executive director, Karen Radman. For those of you who have not interacted with her, you're missing an incredible person, the heart and soul of the organization. She goes above and beyond every day to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the musicians and artists in the state. So Karen, thank you so much. So the other big thank you is Pasta J. Jay, I can't really see you, but Pasta J provides food tonight. One of our board members. Again, we wouldn't be here without Jay. He's at every single event. Jay, thank you so much. You're my brother, I appreciate it. And thank you for the food tonight. Our patron sponsors, Matt Herzberger, Rocky Mountain Public Media, thank you. Clanton Rand, thank you for being here. Kristen Rucker and Kurt Rucker, give it up to all our sponsors tonight. Thank you. Steve Chavez, thank you very much for your help tonight. Our volunteers, Carla Mead, Bob Fontano, Paul Epstein, my co-chair, Troy Duran, Jim Black, and Kristen Van Dessel. Give it up to these guys, thank you very much. We also have some fellow board of directors here, Paul Epstein, as I mentioned, Troy Duran, Kagumba, RD, I don't know if RD's here, but I think he is, and of course Carlos, our fellow board of directors. So, a little bit about the board. Our mission is to celebrate, promote, and support Colorado's music community. Those are our three main pillars. The celebration is through events like this, which again, we're humbled to be in front of you all, celebrating great musicians. We've done a lot of these events over the years, we'll continue to do them. For 10 years, we've hosted exhibits at the hall, at the Trading Post. I think someone mentioned earlier, we are in the midst of moving downtown. It's gonna be pretty epic. It'll be game-changing for the hall, for the board, and I think for the community, so that's upcoming. We're expecting the first phase of that to be in first quarter of next year. So look for us, tune to our social, come to the site, you'll see the updates there. We promote music through partnerships such as our partnership with Colorado Tourism, programming to promote Colorado music and all quadrants of the state. We've set a task force, again, with all four corners of the state right now. We've got great participation too from musicians and venue owners and promoters all over the state. Again, Karen has spearheaded that, and that is just getting going. But again, what we're trying to do is showcase the A market that we know the state is, that many of you know that it is, to tourists coming in to catch music here. So that's in the works, you'll see more from that. And last but not least, I think this is one of the most important facets for me, is in terms of supporting folks in the industry. And we mentioned that earlier. The pandemic, I think, heightened the crisis, the mental crisis that artists and their families went through at that time, but that's ongoing. And so we are giving money out right now, $25,000 grants. We will keep loading that fund as we move forward, but that takes support. So thank you. So a couple things there. If you know someone in need, have them go to the site. There's good detail there, but we're trying to help as many people as we can. We're trying to create awareness, and we're trying to raise money. So if you are philanthropic, if you do make donations, please put us on your list. There is information on your table tent there, but again, go to the site. But there are a lot of key giving moments coming up. Colorado Gives Day, Giving Tuesday, the holidays. There's a QR code on the table. Again, I want to thank you in advance. We appreciate any support that you can give, and we're trying to give that money back to the community to do good things for the great artists and the great people that enrich our lives and make them better. So again, thank you for your support there. I said I was going to be brief, so I am. I just want to thank everyone for being here. Stay tuned for other events. We love the support. We love music. We love the artists, and we love our community. So again, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah, those QR codes are in the program there, so be sure and take one or two of those with you. Presenting to a couple of his bandmates, a guy whose discography includes, forget it. He's a music educator, and we want to give him credit for really spearheading the Colorado Conservatory for the Jazz Arts. They do truly amazing work. He is more than just a timekeeper. To me, he is rhythm and percussion with personality. Please welcome Paul Romain.
Woo, woo, woo.
Okay, now the pressure is on. But what an honor it is just to be here and among you, and thank you all for caring. You know, this is like huge to have a community like this where people care to make the music happen. So I'm here to talk about my brother from another mother over here, and it really feels that way with this gentleman. I've first met Greg probably 43 years ago, and he secretly had been going to my junior high school band concerts with his dad to watch me play drums, which is where Greg started. He started as a drummer, and he tells me that over and over. Yeah, my dad took me when I was 8. He says, son, you gotta listen to this guy. So, and then another kind of interesting thing about Greg is his dad, Joe, and my dad, Jim, worked at Classny Music together, you know. So it really does feel like he's a brother from another mother. Just what a storied career, you know. I first started playing with him at Chapultepec, of course, the hub, the nucleus of the scene. And he, you know, at the ripe age of 19, joined Buddy Rich, big band. You can see Greg in a lot of those videos from that era of like 1984, 83, 85, 86. I get that mixed up, but yeah, and he's right there, you know, right behind Buddy, man. And one of the only trumpet players, the only musicians, period, to sit in on Buddy Rich's band under some circumstances where somebody in the audience wanted him to play Body and Soul, and he says, I don't play ballads, and he handed the brushes to Greg. And there he is playing drums on Buddy Rich's band, which is kind of like, oh. And it's like he just has that kind of, like, you know, Greg has literally been orbiting the planet for decades. And I really think it's to keep the world in balance. He's been, I've gotten to make music with him, you know, like I said, for 40 years. He's been part of our band with me and Eric and Greg and John Gunther and Mark Simon and Mark Patterson and Convergence. He's part of the Brotherhood of Convergence. But just so giving of his music. And one of the great things about both Eric and Greg is they've played with the masters, and they've absorbed so much from the masters, you know. Just mind-blowing amounts of people who aren't with us anymore, and they are literally vassals of all that spirit and knowledge and beauty. And they freely give it to our young community, and I get to watch it all the time and they're so generous with their time, and Greg has been just a trumpet player, like Andrew was saying earlier, and man, I've just watched you just watch the lights go on when people are around him. He's just like such a vassal of joy and acceptance and willingness and courage and creativity. And what more can you ask for, man? I'd like to introduce you to the next inductee, Mr. Greg Gisbert.
Woo, woo, woo.
Thank you so much. That's really awesome to see everybody here. And, thank you, Paul, and thank you to the Colorado Music Hall of Fame. It's truly, I remember when Carlos called me and said, really? Okay, that's really awesome, because I really love our community here, our music community, all the fans, all the young players that we're getting to work with. It's the young players that sometimes hire, we get to actually play on their recordings, which is really awesome. But I just want to take just a very kind of a auctioneer quick run through and try to recall as many of the Colorado musician mentors that helped all of us. They helped all of us in it, and it all went down at the El Chapultepec. So first and foremost, Jerry Krantz is like a second father to me. And also Freddie Rodriguez Sr. is also a second father to me. All the great musicians down there, I'm just gonna go till I can't go much longer. So Billy Wallace, how about Billy Wallace? Billy Tolles, Homer Brown, Akbar Dupreece, Bruno Carr, Nat Yarborough, JoJo Williams, Fred Fuller, D Minor, the list goes on. It's so many people that they were playing with our heroes, and they decided to live here in Denver. And it's just an amazing scene we have here. Especially the support from the people that go out of their way to spend some time with us and hear us play. For the people, the kids and the adults that are part of CCJA that conquer that fear and say, you know what? I'm gonna try, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna go play some music. And I just, most of all, a few people I definitely want to thank, my mother and father, Sheila Gisbert and Joseph Gisbert. My sister Robin Gisbert is here. My brother-in-law, Justin Adams. My beautiful wife, Brenda Mosby. And our dear friend, Virginia Messick. She's out there. And I see Joe Fredrickson out there. Of course, you saw Wendy. Tania Nelson's out there. Ron Jolly's out there. Alejandro Castaño's out there. There's so many great people. Freddie Rodriguez Jr. sitting right up here in the front. So I know I speak for so many of us from my generation here, that we're so blessed to grow up in Colorado and be part of the Denver, Boulder, Colorado Springs, the whole Colorado music community. And I will tell you this, when I moved to New York, they said, where are you from? And I said, Denver. I'm like, man, what's going on out there? They come out here, now my friends that I play with and tour with frequently, the word is out. We've always had a great scene here. It's just now the word is out. And we have so much to be proud of here for our music scene, our music community, and that includes all of you. Thank you very much.
Woo, woo, woo. Yeah.
It says on the instructions that you're supposed to introduce me again. Okay. I'm gonna be the equalizer, okay, let's get this thing back on time. So another brother from another mother that I was talking about is my dear friend, Eric Gunnison. Eric Gunnison over here.
Woo.
And, it's just voluminous, his work. I remember when he first moved here, I saw him in 1981. I didn't play with him for 5 more years because it was just like, oh, I don't know, I could never play with that cat. But then there it was, and then he has like an encyclopedic knowledge of the music, like every recording made from like 1940 to like 2000. I'd say those 60 years he has pretty well covered, and he knows who played on what album, when it was released. You know. It's good to have those guys around. I'm not one of them, but I love the music, and when I get to play with these guys, it's something special. Like when Ken was talking, it keeps us sane, really, and that's for real. And I think we try to reflect that sanity back to you, and then we're all leaving well more adjusted. So, Eric, I thought I'd just kind of converge worlds a little bit and tell a story about what happened one night at El Chapultepec. And Eric used to have this silver Nissan kind of pickup truck thing. And this was like, his sister says, a thing, and it was a thing. We were playing, and it got to the end of the night, and Jerry, I'm going with this. Jerry was like, hey, somebody just broke into your car. and this is, let's go after him. So we get into this Jerry's huge Cadillac, man. And we just we just get in because he said to, you know, like, so Eric and Jerry and I are driving around in Jerry's Cadillac, and they were just building Coors Field. It was just a bunch of dirt piles, and that's where the guy ran. So we're chasing a dude over dirt piles of what would later become Coors Field, right next to Chapultepec, and you know, he's like trying to mow him down, man. Like, I'm trying to think, like, what are we gonna do if we catch up to him? Anyway, so it's a jazz life. It really is a jazz life, and where else are you gonna get to do that with somebody? I don't know. But Eric again has been like just so willingly shared his gift with so many people. He's got to play with the giants, you know, James Moody, Jimmy Heath, Carmen McRae, like for years, and just so many great players, and just we're like, he's a vassal of that knowledge, and he shares it with our kids. I get to watch it in the Colorado Conservatory of the Jazz Arts, where Eric has been with us for like since the beginning. You know, that's how into it he is, and that's where I want the kids to learn that from. You know, some that they can't get from somebody who just didn't play with those guys, because those guys give you a gift, and Eric is a walking example of that with everything he touches, music. So please welcome Eric Gunnison.
Thank you very much. I can't believe Paul just told that story. I was pondering whether to tell that myself or not, but he beat me to it, man. Thanks. I'm extremely honored and humbled to be here with my fellow nominees. These are guys I've played with forever and just adore and love their music, love them as human beings. And I moved here back in, I think it was 1980 originally, and from the East Coast. I grew up on the East Coast, but I was living in LA, and came through the Denver area with a band called the Letterman. I mean, you may remember them from the 60s. That's where I got my 12/8 chops together, you know, doing Summer Place, ding, 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 ding. But I got to Denver, and one of the first people I saw play was Ellyn Rucker. She had this amazing trio, at a place called Sims Landing. Some of you may remember that. Out off of 6th Avenue, out there in Lakewood. Amazing trio with Paul Warburton on bass and Ron Mavis on drums. And I went out there and met Ellyn and Paul and Ron, of course. And I was just amazed at the music I was hearing. I got here and I went, wow. Ellyn was singing so beautifully, playing these gorgeous voicings, swinging. And there was Warburton, you know, who he kind of became my mentor. We often joke that he was also my tormentor. But this music, I went, wow, Denver's happening. There's something going on here. This is a sound that you could hear anywhere, you know, in New York City. It was that sophisticated and elegant. And I mean, Ellyn is one of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life. One of the finest musicians, vocalists, oh my God. And Paul, huge influence on me. That was my first experience in Denver, hearing music. And at the time I was actually playing with Lanny Garrett, who's also a member of the Hall of Fame here. A totally different realm, but I was doing that type of music, and then when I saw off, I would go in, and they actually let me sit in at Sims Landing. That's how I kind of got started on the scene. And then I started going to the Peck and meeting all the great musicians come through there. Paul got me on a lot of those gigs, you know, and so we'd play with people like Pete Chrisley, Carl Fontana, a number of people came through. And the Peck, of course, was a formative experience for all of us, putting these things together, this music together in our ears, in our minds. And of course, all my friends at Kuvo, I've played there many times over the years. You're always ready to promote the music. This wonderful music, always there. You got a gig coming up, come on in and do an interview. Play for us, you know. That's unheard of, that's unbelievable. We've had that for 40 years, over 40 years. Chapultepec was a laboratory, you know, much like Minton's probably was in the 40s in Harlem, where Gillespie, you know, and Diz and Monk were putting together bebop. You know, to me it was like a laboratory where you meet these great musicians, figure out how to play certain ways, background, backup people. So my connection with Denver has always been these touchstones, Kuvo, the Peck, meeting all these great players, starting with Ellyn, then going on to Billy Tolles. So many people through Ron Miles, another beautiful human being and a genius. And my Convergence brothers, Paul and Giz, Mark Simon, Mark Patterson, John Gunther. These bands over the years that I've been part of. My friend Nelson Rangel, who I play with frequently as well. I've had all these great experiences, and that's carried me to other experiences outside of Denver. You know, at one point I found myself on the stage with Carmen McRae and Ray Brown and Mickey Rucker and Bill Jackson and Stanley Turrentine. And that was like 2 weeks out of Denver. My first gig was at the Blue Note with Carmen. We did a record, and then we went to Europe with that band. And I'm sitting there going, are you kidding me? What am I doing here? You know, but I also knew that I was ready for it because of my experiences in Denver, Colorado, and the music that I learned from all these people. And that prepared me for experiences like that. And I knew I could do them. I was up to it. So, I also love being part of the educational scene here. As you may know, I taught at the University of Denver for about 21 years. Been part of Paul's amazing organization, the Colorado Conservatory for the Jazz Arts. Yes, absolutely. So, I just want to say, I love the new musicians that are coming up around here. We have so many great young players, young writers, composers. They're going to make a mark on singing. They really are. And I'm glad to have been maybe a part of that at some point. And I just have, the music is always there, you know? It's always there. Music is always there. Venues come and go. But the music is always there, and you see it in these young people. They still have this thirst for figuring out how to play this music, how to write this music. The creativity. And I hope that continues forever. I mean, music is wonderful. You know, there's nothing like it. Live music. And I'd like to thank my parents for filling the house with music when I was a kid. My mom was an opera singer, my dad was a jazz drummer. So I got all this different type of music. I remember my mother singing Carmen, Bizet's Carmen, in the Toreador song. And my dad has drums set up. He was playing with Coleman Hawkins, you know? So, I want to thank them. I want to thank all the musicians, all these great players on stage tonight, my buddies. I'd like to thank Kuvo, El Chapultepec. I'd like to thank my lovely wife, who's a marvelous musician in her own right. My sister for joining us on that journey, that musical journey, who's here tonight as well. And I just want to say thank you to Denver. It was immediately apparent that it was a musical home and home for me as well. So thank you so much. It's a really an honor to be here tonight. Thank you.
One more induction, the one we've been waiting for. The presenter has become a good friend over the years. A bassist, a band leader with the Coyote Poets of the Universe, a real cultural maven in this city with his poetry and his support for poetry and jazz through the night side. Please welcome Andy O'Leary.
Hi, everybody. How many of you have been to the PEC when it was before Mile High or Lodo, before that all happened? I attended events at the PEC in 3 capacities. An avid fan, listening to the music, sometimes sitting in as a bassist, but most often, most notably, as a co-host and sound engineer with Carlos Lando in our customary place at the second booth under the portrait of Lou Tabakin, saxophonist, looking down at us as we played. And we did it weekly, Thursdays, live remotes from one of the best jazz joints ever. Those remotes were a thrill, especially for me. It's all new to me. Bringing the jazz live and on fire through the airwaves. And people who couldn't make it to Prelodo downtown Denver could hear it. I remember, just back when I smoked, we'd go outside. That cactus was the only light in the area. We'd look out there where the ballpark would one day be. It was like those Chuck Jones cartoons with the little lights blinking, you know. There was nothing there but the PEC. And you could hear Kenny Walker's bass, Nat Yarborough's drums, Freddie's big tenor, sometimes the Marcellus brother, or Larry Coryell, or Lou Soloff, or Wycliffe Gordon, the first guy I got to interview. I got to know Jerry Krantz there. Hey, no dancing allowed. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. He was a great host and knew how to make a great dive the place to be. It is fitting that he and El Chapultepec are inducted together. Jerry Krantz was Semper Fi tough with a big jazz heart that beat with the rhythm of a bebop swagger. In an atmosphere shining under the neon cactus calling us home to the source. He made it the center of the Denver jazz universe, and he taught us jazz by turning it loose in a building made to swing. It's a great honor and pleasure to induct Jerry Krantz and Neil Chapultepec into the Colorado Music Hall of Fame. How about a big hand for Ana Diaz and Angela Guerrero? Come on.
Woo, woo, woo!
I'm too short to even try to mess with that microphone stand. I'm Anna, Jerry's youngest daughter, nominated family speech giver. This is Angela, of course. Everybody knows Angela. She stayed in the kitchen working with Dad since she was 13, just to be close to him, and ended up taking over the whole operation when he wasn't able to. So let's give Angela a hand for keeping the pet going. She really held it together. But this nomination isn't about us. We're here to celebrate all of our inductions here, including our dad and the El Chapultepec. When Jerry decided to make a little jazz club here in our town, halfway between Chicago and LA, he didn't really consider that it was also halfway between the Greyhound bus stop and the viaduct to take a nap under. Okay? There wasn't much around there. And he just had an innate knowing that people were gonna like the jazz music as much as he did. And he wanted everybody to experience it. So some of you might recall him as a kind of stern old man that would survey the crowd from behind the bar. He expects you to order your drink quick and pay for it quicker, right? But if you might have caught him when it wasn't such a big rush, sat down with his non-filtered cigarettes and his cup of black coffee, you might have got to know him a little more. You'd know that he was born on a dirt floor right here in this neighborhood in Denver, in East Denver, on October 29th. Today's actually his birthday. He was a first-generation American, one of 12 siblings, and as Andy mentioned, he was a Marine. He fought as a frogman in the Korean War. So if you got to know him a little bit better than that even, maybe he lent you some money, gave you a lecture when you needed to hear some hard truths, or you might have even caught a hot one from him. He said you had to get your undivided attention if he was going to try to talk to you. But if you got to sit with him like Carlos did so many nights, you would find that he did have an encyclopedic knowledge of jazz and jazz musicians. And those conversations would sometimes go on long after the neon lights had been shut off. And just sharing this joy and this passion of jazz with the greater community and with people who may or may not have ever experienced live jazz, especially in that close proximity of the Peck, was really something that brought him a lot of joy. And it was also organic, you know. He didn't have a social media team. He didn't have an advertising budget. It just happened. And how it happened was the people. The people were the magic of the Peck, and that's all of you, including all of the inductees tonight. You came, you poured your heart on the stage, you supported, you helped KUVO really gain roots by contributing and being members, and it was really all about the people. And honestly, this award belongs just as much to all of you as it does to our family, because it was all of us together. And Carlos was often saying the diplomats and the hobos would be rubbing elbows because it was all, you know, so intimate in there. And sometimes at the end of the night, you weren't sure which was which. Okay. And then there was the infamous side door. It was cracked open as the only exit for the blanket of cigarette smoke that was in the room. But it was also an entry point for so many young and excited minds like Greg. and countless others who just caught a whiff of that good music, almost like a cartoon cat sniffing a pie in a window, right? And some of them went on to build these beautiful careers. Greg, my dad loved you very much, and he would be extremely honored to have this evening shared with you and being inducted. But one thing for sure is he never did it for the notoriety. And sharing it with all of you, like I said, all of the other inductees would really be special for him. I'm sure he's with your mom up there. They're having a good time with us. And we're just pleased to carry some of the legacy forward with the work that we do with the PEClegacy.com and our partnership with the Colorado Music Hall of Fame. We have a lot of fun just trying to keep live music at the forefront of Denver's culture, specifically live jazz, specifically affordable jazz, and specifically with the older generations working with the younger generations, because that's what's going to keep us going. So thank you all. We're really, really extremely grateful to be here, and it feels like a big family reunion. Thank you.
Yeah! Woo, woo, woo!
Two things you need to know. Ken Walker Sextet's getting ready to play. Full set, I think. Yeah, full set. And the bar is open until 10:15. Those are the two things you need to know, right? Now, I've seen this operation happen before. They carry around a big bag of notes. And then this little discussion going on is, what are we going to play? But they all have it all memorized anyway. This is what it looks like to actually get on the literal same page. It's just so amusing. I wish they had more microphones so you could hear what they're saying. Just interpreting. Hey, what's that? No, I don't know that. Let's not play that.
So we played together, like I said, since 1999, so like 25 years, right? We've had one rehearsal in that entire 25 years. It was the first time we were going to play at the Telluride Jazz Celebration. Kenny was like, we should probably rehearse. And I was like, okay. And I think we played like 3 tunes at that rehearsal, and we were like, okay, I think we're good. And then for literal decades, we wouldn't pick any of the music before we got to Dazzle to play. And we would just show up and be like, I don't know, what do you want to play? And there were a lot of times where we would just all wait and Kenny would tell us what we were going to play. And then we would all dash into our books, and it might be something, because the book is actually rather large, and it might be something we literally haven't played in 6 years, and Kenny'd be like, let's play this tune, and we're like, oh God, okay. And then, you know, that's when we needed like a stand-up routine up there. Do we have a set?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I can, along those lines, I can stop talking now, and I can find out what we're gonna play next. We're a well-oiled machine now, though, because Corvus will text us all at least a day ahead of the gig, sometimes more, and we'll decide what we're gonna play. But we called a little audible because we think you're really going to enjoy this next one. Paul seems unsure, but I'm telling you, you're going to enjoy it. This is gonna be great.
Okay, well, usually, lately, this has been a tune that we play at the end of the night, but we're doing it now because, well, you know, we don't want to put any pressure on you to hang around. Okay, whatever. And this is something for all of us, man, and this is why we're here, really doing what we're doing in a world where the focus is so often on other stuff that might not be just things going on in the world, phenomena. We're overwhelmed with phenomena. And our context is more like laughing at ourselves, laughing with each other, try not to take anything too seriously, and be a healing presence in the world. And we'd like to give you like a tune that you can sing, and be that for anyone you know that is needing some healing and you want to lift their spirits up and give them a shot of positive energy. We're going to hold them up and infuse them with love. And you too can be part of this radical movement. You'll catch on what we're doing, I think. 4 beats. That's great, Gisbert. He's got that healing feeling going on.
That's Ken Walker with that Healin' Feelin' going.
Thank you so much. We're going to continue with a tune by Eddie Harris, who we mentioned earlier. This is a contrafact on an old tune called It's You or No One, and Eddie's version is titled You Are Not the Right One for Me. Next, we're going to play a beautiful tune that Ken wrote for Barbara, and this is titled Me Nena, Me Nena.